Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wise Words Wednesdays with Mujeres de Maíz. We have a special night tonight with Santana poets. And hi, everyone. Welcome to Wise Words Wednesdays with Mujeres de Maíz. So I just want to make sure that we're connecting, and I do that almost every time where it's like I want to do a double remix of myself. But I just love to connect with other poetas, and Mujeres de Maíz for over 23 years has been creating a space for artists, poets, wellness practitioners, and many more to share their gifts. So on that note, welcome to Las Mujeres. Hello, ¿cómo están? Good to see you all. So today we have Marilynn Montaño and also Iuri Lara. They'll both be sharing poetry from their different palabras and writing over the years, and we'll also do a little bit of a Q&A and chit chat. So for those of you who may be joining us in the chat, please make sure to go ahead and put any questions or comments that you have there. A lot of times we have a lot of love in the chat, and so just want to make sure that people are know that we're looking and that we're connecting with it, and we can answer you there. So awesome. The way we'll go ahead and start off is just giving thanks, and also a short canto. This is what we've been doing almost for all of our presentations, just to kind of do a land acknowledgement and start in a good way, as our Mujeres de Maíz events have done for almost 23 years. From the very beginning, we want to make sure to honor those who have come before us, as we're giving space to those who come after or continue to do the work. So in that component, I just want to give thanks to the Tongva Nation. We're here in Los Angeles, the Tongva, and also in your area, the Achaman, and give thanks and ask for permission for us to be here and to share these ways. We also want to share and give thanks to the ancestors, not only of this land, but wherever people are coming from across virtual reality and across YouTube wherever you're synchronizing in. So in that note, we want to just give thanks and do one round of the Viento, Agua, Tierra, which is the 4 elements, giving thanks for the elements and for our communities. So I'll go ahead and start that. Viento, agua, tierra, fuego. Viento, agua, tierra, fuego. Wind, water, land, fire. Wind, water, land, fire. Vente a mi lado. Vente a mi lado. Come to our side. Come to our side. Viento, agua, tierra, fuego. Viento, agua, tierra, fuego. So this song is a song by Inlaquech, or from Cristina Gorosica of Inlaquech, which is the founding group of Mujeres de Maíz. We started many years ago as just a poetry group, different mujeres just like you coming together, not online, but in a circle like this, sharing palabras and realizing the connection and really the transformation and importance that happened but when we shared our art and our poetry. So that in that way, we want to give thanks for all those who have come before, to all the communities who have shared, and all of the really beautiful energy that comes from our communities and from women sharing and from anybody sharing poetry or palabra, especially in these times of change. It's really beautiful to be able to offer these online ofrendas. So if anybody's, or anybody who's in the chat or in the area listening on YouTube, please go ahead and repost right now. Let people know we're on, let people know to log in and to check in, and we'll do it that way, in that beautiful way. So again, thank you to Iuri and Marilynn for joining us. This is Wise Words Wednesdays, women's poetry featuring Santa Ana poets. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and start with our first poet, and she'll be reading 2 poems, and I'm gonna read her bio and introduce. Iuri Lara is a Chicana poet, a high school English language arts teacher, and a mother from Santa Ana, California. She holds an MFA in poetry from the University of California in Riverside, and her poetry has appeared in the American Poetry Review, the Academic Journal of Monks, Mujeres de Maíz Zines, Voz Alta Literary and Art Zine, Open Doors Poetry Anthology, Recycled Language Cartonera Zine, Seeds of Resistance Zine, and La Bloga's Poets Responding to SB 1070. Her first poetry book, chapbook titled 13 Poemas, was self-published in 2012. Chicanx Affirmation, her second poetry chapbook, 2019, published by Libro Móvil. So without further ado, por favor, Iuri, give us some palabra and share with us whatever you like. You can intro or you can get straight to the poetry.
All righty. For this part, I'm going to be sharing two newer poems. This first one I wrote right before quarantine started. And it was an invitation to read. The theme was rivers, after the poem by Langston Hughes, Speaking of Rivers. And so this is my response to Speaking of Rivers. I've inherited rivers of sadness from the flow of my mother's tears, begging for another chance to life, begging to be in her right mind, schizophrenic thoughts of suicide, lip-sing undesirable language. She is pregnant of me and should not take her meds, so the anxiety of her thoughts transfers onto the waters of her placenta. I've inherited my mother's sensitive waters. I've inherited a river of hope from my maternal grandmother. Levántate, hija, fluye, fluye como el agua, no dejes que te lleguen, tú no escuches lo malo, solo toma lo que sea bueno. Flow like the river, my queen, you are a beautiful flower and deserve to live in joy. Pretend you are deaf to any contravening words against your happiness. What good is a sad river to yourself? I inherited rivers of imaginative memory, my father's flashbacks of a childhood in the highlands of Jalisco, sprouting springs moving downwards through cliffs, green tobacco, cactus, gourd plants, a home to many toads, crickets, foxes, coyotes, deer, and buffalo. The women carrying dirty clothing for the entire family to wash, arm muscles formed by carrying large clay jarros filled with water from the river. I inherited a river of concrete, or an extension of it. As kids, we called it a river, a water ditch. We encountered every day we walked to school and back. The pungent smell of the ditch woke softer in the morning, hidden under an atmosphere of fresh dew. But the heat of afternoon sun warmed its black and poignant waters, so we wrinkled our noses, my grandmother picking up her steps. Ándale. Then there forever has been and was and is the Santana River. Before the drought, after days of real rain, a gentle consistency of sprinkling, thunder the size of God's fingertips, and a massive outpouring of lluvia filled the river from side to side. Lluvia. Forming my favorite body of water and waterscape as a child, stretching my upper body and neck from the passenger seats of my father's Ford pickup truck. It was a glorious sight to witness as we drove over the river's bridges on McFadden, Edinger, or Fairview. I presenced the mighty blue color of the Santana River, glistening, igniting, movement, spirit reviving, connecting, renovating the waters inside of me.
Yay! I'm gonna give you some energy, even if we're like not being seen.
Thank you. It helps. It does. Those pauses. And the energía. Thank you. Thank you for having us here. Thank you. I've been a fan of Mujeres de Maíz since I found out about Mujeres de Maíz, and just been following your work ever since, and been inspired and moved by your work as well. So muchísimas gracias. It's very meaningful to be in this space, even, you know, virtually. It's gracias for your ofrendas. So my second piece, I'm still working on. I don't tend to shy away at times with sharing things that are in the process. I really enjoy when other writers and poets share works that are in the process. So this is in the process because I just started this poem this weekend and shared it at the Decolonizing Mental Health Festival that just happened this last weekend. So it was kind of inspired by that. And just, you know, what the title is, What Can I Say About a Pandemic? And so it speaks about things that have been coming up during these days, especially in the beginning of the pandemic where, you know, I'm a single mother and I live with my parents and they're elderly. Well, they're my adoptive parents and they're elderly. And so I get a lot of that, you know, older wisdom, teaching stories from from the old times. And you know, I've been hearing stories about our ancestors and these abuelitas and how they survived the Spanish flu. So that's in there. So I'll just go ahead and start. What can I say about a pandemic, except it has me typing in my laptop, grading, holding Zoom conferences, reading emails from the comfort of my air-conditioned car. If it wasn't for the pandemic, my go-to places would be local coffee shops, my classroom after school, my kitchen table. While the public places are now closed to the public, my kitchen table and every inch of home is open to my children, and holding Zoom conferences at home is almost strictly forbidden in front of my 4-year-old. He made it clear the other day when he needed more milk in his cereal after waking up in a grumpy mental fog, saying he was hungry. It's too early, but mom is in the computer and cereal is the #1 priority in this 4-year-old's world at 8 a.m. So he goes wild screaming, "No, mommy, you are not working. You are not a teacher. That is not your job." What can I say about a pandemic? There is enough happiness to finally be able to complete some tasks that before seemed too daunting, like finally planting sage seeds, finally burying my daughter's umbilical cord alone next to her aloe vera plants and chia tree. Hoping to leave the pain I had acquired inside the placenta, I finally offered it to the earth. I finally cleaned the storage room in the house. We finally built a sandbox for the kids. Finally made them a pretend kitchen and learning area. Finally, we take walks every day, sometimes in the morning, but mostly in the evenings. Finally seeing the colors of sundown more often. Finally hearing and sharing, connecting. Finally, some family members who were not interested in prayer asked for prayer. My cousin, who I've invited to women's circles and ceremonies for a long time, got very bad anxiety when people started hoarding supplies from the supermarket. She called my mother the other day and asked her for prayers. Hearing her through tears, asking for my mother's prayers was an answered prayer in itself. What can I say about a pandemic? My mom says. This is the first time my 72-year-old mother has experienced something like this. But she says it is not the first time our ancestors have survived a pandemic. Her grandmother, Mama Praxedis, remembers the Spanish flu in Guanajuato. That is the plague that ended the revolution, great-grandmother would say. If someone started with a fever and would not die after the 3rd day, they would make it. But sometimes there were mornings when more than one person would wake up dead in the same household. Great-grandmother said she remembers the mass graves, la peste. Then my mother's mother-in-law, born in 1904, Mama Andrea, she was 15 years old when she became sick of the Spanish flu. She had already been married 2 years since she claimed she was forced to marry at the age of 13 by her first husband. Mama Andrea also claimed she spent an entire month in the small corner of her adobe house, cold and many nights trembling of heat. She did not move for an entire month. Her comadres would drop off food, no one but her husband willing to take care of her. She survived, but by the end of the 30 days, her entire hair had fallen out. So what do I know about a pandemic? There is mourning around me, some loud and restless, some silent and holding itself still. Mourning, still like a grave, still like a memory. Okay.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Great to have you share that. And especially cool to have you share something that is new, right? It's new, hot off the press, hot off the journal, and really timely. I hope people, maybe record it after or something. And I think those types of things are so clear or key and really clear and important to hear right now. And to really, people are feeling a lot of things. And so usually now we just see them in little like inspirational memes or little palabras on Instagram. But to hear your voice and to hear that is really beautiful and key. And I would encourage you to record it and upload that. Or maybe we can like cut out, edit just this part and upload that so people can hear it, even if it's like input. I feel poetry in the spoken word is so different, when you hear it from somebody's voice, energy, and so consider that. Yeah,
Thank you.
Great. So, how are you doing, Marilyn? ¿Todo bien con audio?
Yeah, I can hear you all now.
Okay, perfect. Great. So, yeah, I mean, Mujeres de Maíz, again, I'm just going to share and then introduce Marilyn to share her, Marilyn, to share her poesía and poems. These both chingonas today are both super duper chingonas from Santana, holding down work not only in the palabra scene or spoken word or poetry and writing, creative writing scene, but also in organizing and spirit work and community work and cultura. And so to hold all those things at once is a lot. And also, right, families, motherhood, sisters, daughters, tias, and many other things. So I commend you on your work. I know it's a lot. And during the pandemic, like, as you said, your son is like, you're not. I need some breakfast right here. Like, we don't understand these things and our needs automatically as children, or even now emotional needs as ourselves and our time frame and wherever our age is are also really key. So palabras are able to share that. Poesía is able to capture that sometimes through images, through metaphors, or just straight out energía, right? Or canto. So qué bueno, y muchas gracias por eso. So I would love to introduce our next poet. Our next poet is Marilynn Montaño. She is a Chicana writer, a bus commuter, and artist from Santana, California. She is a proud daughter of migrant parents from Puebla, Mexico. Montaño writes of her community, bus commuting, house insecurities, and identity. OC Weekly dubbed her poetic influencer in their 2019 People issue for her community work in Santana. Montaño uses collaging and writing as ways to express her art. She self-published a short collection of poems in a zine that honors home called Root in 2019. Montaño is currently working on her first manuscript. So please, all the aplausos que podemos, entre tres, please honor and give thanks and welcome Marilynn Montaño to share some of her poesía. Muchas gracias.
Yes, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start off with a poem, and this one is called This is the Calling. And start off with the fierce poem. So this is the calling. This is a calling to all the fierce, brown, chubby women in the universe, to all the mujeres de my lineage who birthed before mi mamá, to all the ones que trabajan duro, to all those who work themselves off and on the mirror. The mirror says, mira la que chulada, why do you shy away? To all the glorious panzas making waves, to all the chaparritas y ronditas, get up and fuck it up. Always wake up feeling bolder than yesterday. Take the eyeliner straight up to a wing. Let the world know that you do not play around. Rub your panza with love, massage your scalp with rosemary, and brush your pelitos. Mist some rose spray across your flesh. You are love, you are delicacy. Take up space, own your space. This is your calling, this is your time. And that's that poem. Um,
Aplausos.
and I'm gonna share this. Lately, right now, I would like to say that I've been writing every day, but with everything that's going on, sometimes I don't write. I don't write every day. That's the reality. I do other things that are not related to writing, like collage. I I go into the kitchen and I start making cold brew or like try making experiment with what I can make at home. Um, but I just want to share something from my journal entry, and it's something that I hope that I when when thinking about my manuscript, and I've been holding off on a lot of writing that I've been wanting to put out there, but I think with this time it has given me a lot to think about what I really want to put on there and kind of deal with myself and deal with all the emotions that I have. So I'm going to share this piece today. All right. I'm trying to focus, yet my eyes want to jump out of me to reach to the night sky. Maybe then all the words can sync nicely. I'm out of focus. I give the world the best of me at times, yet I'm writing right now to tell you that I am out of focus. It has been hard trying to reach the pen and write on my page. And I want to go to sleep at least so I can walk in and out of my dream. But where do all the sad poems go? Tucked in the pockets with leftover lint capsulated in my fist. And that's that.
Muchas gracias. Yeah, I mean, we just were sharing that, right? There's so many things going on, and a lot of us have different roles. So I really appreciate that, as I think many, well, women in general, people of color, and then also women, and then women of color, and young people of color have always done like 20 different things, right? I think our generations, I remember somebody saying, asking me like, you're otro proyecto, like otra cosa que quieres hacer, or like, then I was starting to do like herbs or versus the music. And I rarely do poetry or music anymore, but more into hierbas and selling things and teaching, and we all have these roles and ways, and each of you really exemplify that. But one of the key things that I saw somewhere, I don't know if it was in a post or somewhere, was that Indigenous women have always done all of these things, right? And our communities of color have had to know the hierbas, have had to know womb care, have shared palabra, because our floricanto has always been like that. We have traditions of having to know and do all of these things. And this is just our reality. It's not otra cosa. So thank you for opening up and being very beautiful examples of mujeres and of community leaders and participants and people who are doing the work, on the ground, in the streets, in the libros, in the libro mobile, in the schools, or wherever it may be. It's really beautiful to see that. And it's good to see it in all the different regions, right? Such as I logged into the Decolonizing Mental Health Zoom workshops, as well as the Facebook Lives. And I was really appreciating la energía, porque usualmente no puedo ir porque tengo un evento aquí o algo así, right? So beautiful to see that. So Iuri, we would love to hear, I'm mentioning to those in the chat or anybody listening, there's some fires and hearts going on and some aplausos there. So you can check it out later if you're not able to see it now, Iuri and Marilynn. But for those listening, again, repost, share it, or let people know that it'll be on here forever. It's on our YouTube channel. But also if you have questions, other than just like snaps and really appreciating the música, if you have, or the música and poesía through their palabra, if you have anything, go ahead and put in the questions, and we'll have a little bit of Q&A in just a bit. So without further ado, Iuri, are you ready to share some more palabra and poesía?
Yes, I am. The next two pieces are from my latest chapbook. I just wanted to show this. Chicanx Affirmations. This is the latest offering that is in this form, in the form of a poetry chapbook. And that was published by Libro Móvil, and I'll show the website in a bit. In case anybody is, interested in having this at home. So we'll give you that information in a bit. So let's see. I'm going to share a spoken word poem. And it is titled "The Revolution Begins at Home." And it's a little older, a couple years long. A couple years ago I wrote it, and it's just speaking about sort of that work that needs to be done at home. And it's hard work, right, to begin change, transformación, evolución en la casa, whether that be a physical home or a spiritual, mental, metaphysical place, right? The revolution begins at home, brothers, sisters, all genders present in the circle. Sometimes we must drop the mic and check what's inside our bedroom, the mess in that place. I cannot hide away anymore, every inch of me exposed. Why would I want to hide now? I am home, realizing the need for change was inside myself all along. The chaos and serenity, screaming for justice of the self. Is that not how it should begin? To ask for self-justice as we ask for someone else's? The revolution begins in our bodies, a plea for health and balance, the need for safety in all the spaces we inhabit. We have the tendency to fall, to shatter, to take care of ourselves in order to sacrifice hard, dead skin and make room for a new humid layer of skin, tierno. I've had to take myself there sometimes, and tomorrow I will go again, enter the courthouse where the lioness and lion stand with open wings, asking me to make judgment for myself. I would not have it any other way. The heart of a child will be voices singing for compassion, reminding me I had the courage to organize my scars into seeds for freedom, reminding me I had the courage to love. All goes there. The traumas of my childhood and the traumas of my foremothers and grandfathers have been the toughest injustices I've had to resolve. But going there is necessary in order to be grounded in the truth of the past and present, in order to take my place in this sacred time. Home is where I've realized that our people made a revolution of words that survived, of aprons, clay pots, pens, paintbrushes, chisels, herbs, mazorcas. We continue today. It will never stop. The molcajete and molino are our biggest allies as they swirl in circles, grounding our memory alive and feeding us in the most literal sense. Don't give up, you sacred Leona, she says to me. Go to the corner of your bedroom, the place you built for water and candlelight. Lay the ocean and river rocks on your windows in perfect rows. Put your visions into words, write them out. Free yourself through conversation. Dig holes outside your home. Bury intentions and dust. The universe can hear, know who you are. You are bone made of star, a human being in a great big family of poets, reincarnated souls of the ancients. Let your revolution be light. Let your revolution begin at home.
Applausos. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm like, snap here, snap there. It is, yeah. Yup, that's all I gotta say. Come on, you said it all. No tiene que decir ni nada más. Palabra, palabra. Qué chido. Palabra is very much what I have the circles. Both of you were very much a part of the Coyoshauqui circle in Santana, ¿verdad? And right now in a circle called Chinachli, which is very similar to Coyoshauqui circle across the US, many of them, after they share something, they're like, palabra. And it's all these young girls and their mentors or femtors, right? They're like, palabra. So muchas gracias por eso. We got some wows and fuegos still going on. If there's any questions, please make sure to put your question. I was gonna say your answer, but not the answer. Just in the Q&A section, we'll have it in just a bit. So please do share. Is there another one that you had?
Yeah, I have one more to end it there. So this one is for all the children. I shared this one on Sunday too. And yeah, for all the children, especially in this times. To all rainbow warrior children, you're the dream our ancestral stars dreamt 52 light years ago. You're the seed in the heart of a luminous growing light, the presence that will heal wounds of generations, manifestations of the seventh eldest foremother. For more than 9 months, your mother fed you in warm and whole darkness with her voice and touch. You are young, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years young. You are sacred elders returning to us as children born into the present. Our response to prayers, purposeful intentions, and mothering thoughts, spoken in sacred moontime, raised to the ancients with flowers and smoke. You are young, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years young. The answers to our prayers are young, rainbow warriors born from the spiral of time, reviving codes hidden in caves, proving that spirit is wireless, making relations to languages anthropologists theorize dead. You sung yourself into existence, telling stories of love and wisdom, hearing our feet dance upon the sun as we tied our arms to the tree of life. You heard our plea, here to help us understand how to survive the massacre of genes. The answer to our prayers are young, rainbow warriors born into the revival of time. They are young, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years young.
And we're like, snap, snap. Whether you could hear the snap or it's a mute snap, you could see it, which is like what I like about Zoom, right? Or like these online things, we could definitely like see that in many ways. So.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias for sharing the palabra that you're sharing. And we have some rainbows and music notes in the chat. So I really love to bring in canto también. And so, you know, it's floricanto, or a lot of us understand that term or have connected with that term for many years in Xochilincuica, and now I'm meaning floricanto and that poetry and spoken word. And so that sing song, you know, they're always like, a lot of Chicanas sound the same when they do poetry. And I was like, I think it's our intonation, it's our community, it's where we come from. It's also what we hear, all these things. But I think we all have our own voice. We all have our own tone, connection, voice, understanding, view, perspective, and it's all, the more specific it is, the more beautiful it is. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate hearing the Santana crew. Whoop, whoop. All right. So without further ado, would love to hear more palabra from Marilynn Montaño, por favor.
All right. This next poem is it's called Home, and this poem is from my root scene. And this poem is just, it came in birth when I was more heavily into community activism, physically. But after that, I kind of just, you know, I took a break and decided to work more on my writing and, you know, do with what I can and start at home, like I think what Iuri said in the beginning with her poem. And so I'm gonna start off with that poem with the name of this one's called Home. Home, a 4-letter word, an expensive word, a painful word, so not easy to write, so complicated to hold, so hard to go home, so complex to build. Algún día voy para atrás a mi pueblo, says a pa. So complicated to explain, I don't want to go home at times. So expensive for washed on white walls and cockroaches that roam at night. I got to raise your rent by 100 soon because I lost money on this apartment when it was not being rented out, says the landlord. so violent outside that you can only find home with those close to you. I hope those are fireworks, says my little brother. Home, the home that we are all fighting for, the home that we are all angry for, the home that we are all crying over. Home, the home that we are all resisting for, the home that we are all uniting for, that we are all transforming for. Home, the home that we're all stepping toes over, that we're all calling each other over, the home that we're all upsetting each other for, the home that we're all dissing each other for. Home, we all just want to be home. Okay, so that's that home. You know, and I wanna share this next poem. When thinking about what I want to write, even though I haven't been writing every day, but I do think about it a lot and a lot of activities that I do. And I count that as brainstorming with my writing still, it still counts. Um, and so I want to leave off with this poem, Anxiety, What's Up? Because, even before COVID and talking about anxiety and, mental illnesses is still not talked about as much, and it's and right now during this time is where like it's you're kind of forced to sit with those feelings and sometimes you know it's just best to write them out. And so anyways, I share this poem because when I read this poem, it kind of helps me with what I want to put out and be intentional about what I want to put out in my manuscript. And I'm on my own timeline, so I already gave up the idea that like, oh, by a certain time, because that doesn't exist. It's whenever the creation wants to exist. So here's this poem. Anxiety, what's up? You're so clever coming in after I consume coffee. You think you got me when I undress myself. You come for me when I am alone or when I'm in public. How do you do it all these years, beating yourself out of me? You got no shame. You welcome yourself by every shake in my body. I cannot hold my words together, but I see you. Why, fuck you, anxiety. What's up, overthinking? Let's throw it down, fears. You do not control me, insecurities. You have overstayed your welcome for too long. Let me show you the exit out of me. You are no longer welcome to leech on me. I will not allow for you to restrain me from my day. Because I miss me because I am fear. So you and your homies, anxiety, fear, and overthinking, insecurities, you can catch the exit out of me. And that's the poem. So thank you.
Yay, aplauso. Yes, I'm like, especially, I teach also, and the majority of it's all raza, like here and there, an Asian American student or African American student. And the majority mention, especially the women, about anxiety or depression and different things that they're going through. So I was like, so let's throw down fear. I was like, we need I need to record this and play it in class or offer it to them. Hopefully some of them are listening. I know one of them tuned into one of the poetry nights to gain inspiration because they had a creative project and she was going to do a poem. So they gaining inspiration for the younger generation. And I'm really appreciative of you taking the time out of your organizing schedules or your family schedules, your just stay-at-home schedules, even if it's just your rest schedule and your nap schedule, to share some palabra today and to share some of your innermost thoughts and also your experiences, as well as some of your critiques of not only community but politics and things that are happening in the world. So We have more aplausos and like hands up and yeses happening in the chat. So I just want to let you know that, because I know sometimes you're not able to see that. So it's just like, you're like, shit, it's hard as spoken word artists or poets who like used to feel the energy. I'm like trying to give that back to you, because I understand, but está un poquito difícil to perform without any energy back. But I wanted to open it up to the chat and also to us in general, about any just a Q&A. You can ask each other a question that you've maybe always wondered about each other, or just like, what's your favorite food during the quarantine, or whatever it may be. But I have a few too, and I want to open it up to those that are listening and watching on YouTube or wherever you might be watching, about any questions. So think about it. I'm gonna give you a couple seconds to think about it while I bring up the first question. If you have anything for each other. So one of the questions, and I mean, sometimes you already mentioned it, but some of your inspiration, I know they could say like everything from bus commuting to children or to spirituality, things like that. But what do you think, what is one of your inspirations for your palabra, or even to decide to share the work? Because a lot of people write, they don't call themselves writers or poets, but they have like books and books or journals, right? And you both deciding to share it. So you can take that. There was a few questions in there, any which way you'd like. And there's some questions coming in on the chat too. So I'll be sure to ask those. So who would like to start? Either of you, whoever says something. You're both unmuted, so.
I'm gonna go ahead and share. That reminded me of the question reminded me of the first time I started writing in this way, where I guess I didn't realize at first I was writing a poem, but it was pretty clear once I read it out, and I was like, hey, this is poetry. Because I know that a lot of writers tend to start writing at a very young age, although everyone is in their own journey. So, I know that coming into writing or writing, being a source that inspires them can be different for everyone. But for me, it was when I was a high school freshman. So this was a really transformative time in my life, because I was becoming more rebellious, I guess you can say, just all these feelings of seeking for understanding, seeking an identity of my own. And now I realize, that was a biological thing and a very natural thing, but also being a product of my surroundings, right? Growing up in Santana, at the time, every time I would go outside of Santana, and even when I encountered youth that were not from Santana, because I was involved in programs through my school and things like that, there were all these stereotypes about us, about Santana, very disempowering stereotypes, right? And most of the times they were negative. Other people had negative things to say about where I lived, and the people from Santana. And so kind of just questioning, where is all this coming from? Why, the trying to understand. And I was lucky enough to find a friend in my high school that had similar thoughts, and then he introduced me to Mecha, Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán. And for me, that was very meaningful at that time. It really was, because it made me understand history, and it introduced me to history of the Chicana movement and all of that. And so I really desired, and when I was very thirsty to be able to give back in some way, I really wanted to make a difference. And at the same time, I had also grown up Catholic, although now I realize that the way my family practices Catholicism even to this day is very embedded in indigenous practices. And you find that out through being in indigenous ceremony, right? And that there are things that your family does that actually are not original to the Catholic Church, but are original to their pueblito, and their way of life as growing up as campesinos. And so that was another thing that was going on in my transformation. And I kind of stopped. I wanted to stop praying the old way that I had been taught in Catholicism, and I just kind of like started meditating on my own. Nobody told me, sit cross-legged and I just did it on my own. But I don't want to say it was completely on my own either, because I really think that those practices are really inside our DNA, right? And so when we seek and when we start to get in tune, then they can be natural, and they'll feel natural because they are natural. They're inside of us, right? They're inside our memory, our genetic memory, our ancestral memory. So anyway, when I literally sat in my room and was in meditation and was asking, I guess in a way, for like divine intervention, like I want to give back, I want to, and I started writing. That's how my first poem started. Something told me to, I had this vision, and I feel like I was in a way transported, and I saw pyramids, I saw feathers, I saw música, like a lot of danza elements in my vision, and I started writing, and that was the first poem I ever wrote, was about that vision. And because I was very angry at that time, realizing that there were injustices around us that affected me, my family, my community, my people. And so I wanted to give back in some way. And I did start sharing. And it was through Mecha, actually, that I started sharing, and at open mics. And then because there was sort of like this response from people around me that felt the words, felt the energía, then that inspired me to keep writing. And, it hasn't stopped. It's taking its cycles, and sometimes I write less, sometimes I write more. There's a lot of demand right now from my children, I have two small children. So I don't write as much as I want to recently, but it's always there.
Wow, that is an amazing story, and especially kind of the visions or things that came. I think we've heard that a lot with different people who are involved or connected with Mujeres de Maíz, or have come along the way in our journey, whether performing once or being published once in our zine, or those who have been with us for years and years and years, or decades even, right? Literally, people have had like a vision of Mujeres and corn. And of course, it doesn't mean it's like us as Mujeres de Maíz. Obviously, our ancestral memory and indigenous people across the globe and across Turtle Island have oftentimes corn in connection. So it's not us as an organization, but that other level and that other connection of it is not to be dismissed, right? It's something to think about and really honor. So I really appreciate that story. And actually, what's really interesting on that note is that 2 questions that came in after I shared those questions are exactly the questions that the people asked. So we're in sync. Velinda Pearson said, how did you begin sharing palabra with the community? Which is one of the second questions I asked in there. And then Mia Diaz said, how do you find inspiration when it comes to writing poetry? So I was basically saying it while they were typing it. And that is how Mujeres de Maíz has always been. We're always in sync or connecting and sharing. Did you want to share a little bit, Marilynn, of your thoughts on that, or anything that came up as a result of that? There's a lot there.
Yeah. So I'll try my best to answer. For me, well, I started journaling when I was in 4th grade. My first journal that I picked up was one of those scholastic book fair events at the school, and being like in a low income mixed status family, sometimes like you don't really have the luxury to put all your coins into like the arts. My parents are sometimes, I think now over the years they're not as they're letting down the traditional ways, but still, it's like, well, I'd rather spend it on like, we need to pay rent or food. And so And I was never like, okay, like, gosh, you know, I was very understanding at a young age, like, and so, I would save, my coins because my dad would be like, okay, here you go, um, like, go buy a book or something, you know, and so that was one of my first journals from the Scholastic Book Fair event, and I remember writing like about what I liked and who I liked. Those are the things you write when you're a fourth grader, I guess, you know. Like I remember writing like, oh, like who I had a crush on, and from there you know, I was talking about like I want to be this, I want to be a writer, and I want to do all these things, and you know, and so I've kept all my journals, and over the years I've kind of uh, I look back to them when I'm like in need of some answers or I'm going through something emotionally, and I it's kind of like there's answers there, you know, and so I was really so, and then later on I was really inspired to write more about like my community, and I didn't know exactly where to start because in this came more towards like the end of middle school, like high school. At that time, like we didn't have programs that a lot of youth well at that time had where like for example battery writers. That's one of the first programs I found outside of school, and I found that program through a library. It was because of a library, and I've always loved being surrounded by books, and I read here and there, and it doesn't mean that like you know, I've read all these books, like still I need to read you know, I have a long list of books and that I need to go through. But anyways, uh I I knew that the intention was there, and so when I came across this program, Body Writers, it helped me like kind of point me to a direction of writing, even if you know the first thing you write isn't always going to be your first like poem. You know, it comes in a journal entry, and I know the first thing I wrote was it was about a newspaper clipping from the LA Times of this mujer who lives in Africa. Her name is Angela Sawari, and in um, she took in babies that people just didn't want to take care of anymore, and she was already um, uh, low income herself, and so she knew that she wanted to give, and she couldn't you know, just deny them. So to me, and because I wanted to write about community, like that inspired me because I've always seen my parents be so giving, even them, you know, not having as much. And so I just wanted to find the words. And so when I wrote about that newspaper clipping, it was just kind of a reflection of, you know, and feeling inspired by her actions. And so, you know, the more and more time I spent at Writer Writers, you know, I came across like authors like Iuri, who was also a writing advisor at that time, Sarah Rafael Garcia, um, you know, so they all introduced me and other youth at that time to different authors of color that I was craving for at school, and I was craving to write about community and to write about my experience, but it wasn't there yet, you know. So I have some of the material, but I think now is the time where I kind of go back and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to decode what I'm really trying to say, you know, and that's okay. I think sometimes like your first journal isn't always like it has everything about you, you know. There's so much to decode about you, and especially with me, like, um, you know, you know, I didn't grow up going to like, oh, you know, you're going to go to Mexico and visit your grandparents every summer, and you know, you're gonna find your cultura, and you know, I come from a mixed status family, so it's like I've only visited Puebla like once, and I have very vivid memories of that time, and I hold on to those memories like gold for me, you know. And so when it comes to writing about identity and community, like I'm still trying to like, you know, like just um, you know, write from those perspectives, like you know, questions that I have, you know. Every day I'm kind of like coming across stories that my parents haven't told me over the years, and then recently they told me new things about my family members, you know. So, um, you know, it comes in waves. Earlier on, I want to say like I was writing more about community and I was a journalist at some point, you know, and so now I'm just kind of trying to write more poetically, and so I think it changes, and I'm, you know, and I'm still kind of going through those changes through my writing, you know, and so, yeah.
It's definitely a process, the journey. And that was actually one of the questions, but I think I'm gonna put it as a prompt for you, a writing prompt. For all of us listening, for all of you tuning in, whether it's 2 years from now or in the chat right now, the writing prompt, or somebody asked a question, which was, because we're running out of time, but I wanted to do the writing prompt that they're asking, which was basically, you've known each other for years. How have you seen each other grow as a poet or inspiration, right? So I'd love to have these little, like, I mean, you don't have to, no es tarea, pero si quieren hacer un writing prompt, not necessarily like a poem about the other person, but about other poets, right? Or like sisters or other poets and corporations and connections. But I did want to make sure for all those who are inspired today to hear more from Iuri, to read their chapbooks, to follow them on Instagram or learn about their website, for each of you, as we close out, to give out your social media or anything that you'd like to share. And then if you have the chapbooks or where to maybe purchase them, where to find out about you. Iuri, would you like to start?
Yes, so this first one here, iurimelara.com, is my website, but I just checked and I didn't pay. So my 1 year is up, but give me at least 24 to 48 hours and it should be back and running again. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Iuri Lara. It's the same, under the same name, Iuri Lara. Iuri with an I. That is my writer name. And if you like Chicanx affirmations, you can go to Libro Móvil and order it there. It's not on Amazon, but you can go to libromovil.com and you can order it through the publisher and bookstore here in downtown Santana, libromovil.com. Or just message me and I can also send one to you because I have copies.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I like how you did the little paper, because yeah, people are like, wait, how do you spell that? And then we have to write it in the chat. We did already put your Instagram in the chat and your name. So being able, for both of you. Marilynn, would you like to share more information on how to touch base with you? Maybe if they want to invite you for another virtual reading, or in the future, an in-person reading, whether at their school, their campus, their community center, etc. Por favor.
Yeah, so I did I know you said something about what is it? Poeta tip jar. So this is my Venmo, Marilynn-Montano. I don't know if you can see it up close, yeah. But
a little bit.
My IG is Marilynn _Montano, and so you can DM me on IG and we can go from there. Yeah.
Awesome.
And as my root scene, right now I'm currently sold out of them, but I'm pushing myself to work on new stuff. So for any new stuff, I just tune into my IG. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, mujeres, for joining us today on Wise Words Wednesdays. We had these amazing Santana poets, Iuri Lara and Marilynn Montaño, for sharing their palabra, their spoken word, their experiences, as well as their chapbooks and some palabras, and even some new poems hot off the journals and hot off the pen and paper. So hopefully you're able to follow them on their Instagram. Again, you can check the chat if you're looking on YouTube, or rewind this when it's on YouTube to see their Venmo. Of course, if you'd like to support Fem Labor, you can give them tips in the Venmo and just share them, or also talk to them about getting their books or hiring them or asking them to share at other places, whether virtually or in the future within schools and campuses, etc. So thank you so much for joining us. This is Wise Words Wednesday with Mujeres de Maíz. We really appreciate all you do and your palabra, and we wish you well during this time to everybody listening and also, of course, to our guests for today. Muchas gracias. Cuídense mucho.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.